Oh man. Well, I guess we can talk about last night. So I had actually been had let's say a hard time, I guess, sleeping on Saturday going into Sunday, or I guess Sunday morning. And then I woke up at like 10 o'clock. And this was very not preferred, if you know what I mean. Like, oh great, 6 hours. I never get the full seven. It's actually a thing I've noticed where just a lot of days as early as I may try to sleep, I just can't get the full schedule. So I was basically trying to reverse that last night. And then as I was laying here, I started noticing I didn't know where my key was. Um, so I looked for that for a little bit. Then I finally was able to go to sleep. I think it was almost 3, but I was able to go to sleep. And all of a sudden, about 4 hours later, it's like 7 in the morning. I hear this big like banging noise, like someone is trying to and I almost like, well, it kind of scares me at first because I'm not used to it at this point, but I know usually if there's like a semi familiar voice and you hear banging, it's because someone decided to not bring their own, take have their own keys or whatever. So that person wakes me up to open the door for them, and then after that I went back to sleep for 2 hours, but that still is probably around like a little bit over 6, maybe 7. Just can never get that full 8 ever. Man, it's hard to do a lot of this stuff. It really is. Like, just from the standpoint of noticing the way that employers are and some of the things they like to do and say. Um and just kind of marveling at how you can have them talk with such desperation about like needing people. You see now hiring signs everywhere you go. But then when you actually apply, it's a completely different story. Suddenly they're very picky. Suddenly they're very selective. Suddenly, when you start working for them, they're very quick to being irritable. Oh, you didn't do this right, or oh, new person that did not do this before we hired them. You didn't do this the way we wanted. It really is interesting just how much they can shift in such a quick amount of time. No, Saturday was an interesting day. All right. I'm telling you, I always notice the pattern of employers where when you're again not working for them, they try to make the job sound as appealing as possible, and then when you start working for them or when you're in the process of being hired by them, that's when they start revealing the less desirable aspects of it. You have to have this, you have to have that, you have to do this. And I said for the life of me, I can't get excited about the invasion of privacy these people would like to conduct. Really, the fact that they kind of leave you out in the cold when it comes to if something happens to you. So I'm my interest in working for them really deteriorated in the span of a couple of hours. Um, I never really wanted to do a video like this, but so I was talking about how insane it is that I'm getting to a point where it is becoming easier to speak to celebrity females like ones who've actually been in movies, actresses, whatever, like people have actually done something, than it is to talk to a regular woman. Where many times the celebrity will write something to you maybe once every couple of days, once a week, whatever. And I don't have a problem with this at all because I can infer the person is very busy. Their inability to be as accessible as one of these other women is like much more understandable to me. But when you're talking about a lot of these regular chicks, it's like, the one I talked about, like there was one that was ignoring me for this prolonged period, and the thing that drives me insane about her, and it's something that a lot of them have, is that it's one thing when people have like a job or something and they're very busy with it, but even that still would be like, for months you just can't say something back to somebody. But this is someone who is like online all day long, even if they're not posting on social media. They admitted to me they don't go out and, you know it's just they've always been an aggravating group, but it seems like at points it just gets worse and worse. Like I said, it's the damnedest thing to me. Here's this person that claims they like you and want to speak to you, want to talk to you, etc., etc. And then the first thing they do after they start speaking to you is looking for backdoor exits. Like, okay, I'll get mad at him over this so I can ignore him. I even have one chick who disgusted me so much because I made a joke that was like very obviously a joke, and she responded to it by like just full frontal. And I was like, I dropped so many hints, like little subtle things, that this is not serious. This is a gag. And for you to assume that I actually wanted to do this, I haven't messaged her since then. She tried to quickly brush it off like it was no big deal. That's one of the things chicks do when they're in the wrong. They try to like skirt past any obligation to be like, oh man, I don't know what I was thinking here, but I wasn't having it. I said it doesn't make any sense for you to believe this. Um, and sure enough, she did not respond after that. I mean, it's fine by me because like at this point, my interest in her is very, 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 very minimal. She has completely just underperformed for my expectations. Like I don't have some big huge set of standards when it comes to which one of them I'm at least willing to try talking to, but when you're over here trying to accuse me of wanting this from you, and oh, I can see what you actually believe. It's stupid. Her whole thing is dumb. But no, that's a pattern I'm noticing with a lot of them now, where they just will not respond to you. Like, and it used to be that if you went on a website like YouTube, for example, I came in and you come in some woman's comment section, you're like, hey, what's up? How are you? It'd be one thing because of like the way it's said, maybe, etc. But now you can have a woman who sits on, it could be Twitter or Instagram, but usually it's Twitter, who sits on there all day long, posting, 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 posting. It used to be Facebook, but they don't do that one anymore. Posting, 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 posting. And you could go up to her or go in her DMs, whatever, go, hey, how are you? And that person will continue to post, 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 and leave you on read or seen or whatever. And you're like, did I do something wrong? Because again, it's one thing if we're talking about these sites where there's just people, you don't know if they're online or not, but it's like you're aware that this person is online. They know that you're aware that they're online because they're posting so much that that's the only way you could do this if in that scenario. but they just don't care. It's fine with them if you are basically just not responded to ever. No, it's like I said, relationships have really in the last several years deteriorated, like just in ways that really wouldn't have seemed possible even more than 2 decades ago. And a lot of it is due to the internet. But and I said before, a lot of people don't like talking about that. It's just sad to me that no matter how much you try to speak to one of them, no matter how much you may try to have a, I guess, dialogue, you just can't have enthusiasm that's going to make a difference, man. It's God, I just think it's insane. Oh, so much nonsense. Man, I remember the first time I ever like went online on those different, more specifically Reddit, and I remember all the different like postings by chicks on there. Oh, I'm looking for someone to talk to. Let's keep each other company. I like this, this, and this, and I want to learn about you, and I'm looking for some friends, and all the postings, they're just over and over and over again, right? Poor lonely little woman. And I said, it's sad how back then, for as bad as they were, and they were bad, because people don't in general post as often on Reddit per day than they do on somewhere like Twitter, for example, or even with Instagram because they have the stories. Um, it was a lot easier to believe when someone didn't write back to you that they were probably just busy or whatever. Whereas like now you have these women that like are on these different websites and they're posting all day long while they ignore you. Like it's not even something you can pretend is not going on at this point. Like it's literally just them sitting here on their phones or computers all day long and they get a message from you and they don't respond to it at all. Um and then you're supposed to like go to the next one or I guess keep waiting forever. So just worse and worse. It's a race to the bottom. How many ways can we look for ways to ignore someone? And the crazy part is you'll get some response from them sometimes, right? Oh, thank you for contacting me. Thank you for reaching out to me. How are you? And it'll make you think if you're not as savvy, oh man, she must actually want to speak to me. And then but then remember, continuity sets in and you go, wait a second, this is something I've seen several times over. This like, fake interest that usually is followed by some point after that with just no actual concern by the person. That's why I said it's all just a mirage, just a constant string of lies, man. Mm. And it's incredible. There's such a almost like intended desire to have this go nowhere. Like it's you can't just not respond if you want to talk to a person. You have to sit there, write some stuff back that kind of like leads them on, whatever, and then eventually do your whole cutoff thing where you wash your hands and don't even write anything back. I had a person in real life who sent me they for like 2 months they just would not write anything to me. 2 whole months. So then last Saturday they sent me a message asking if did I forget about them? They haven't heard from me in a long time. And I'm thinking to myself, how is it that someone that never messages you, never tries to contact you, never reaches out to you at all, can sit back, put their head to their, I guess, chest, and wonder if you've forgotten them? It's like, wouldn't you say this is a two-way street? I still haven't responded back because I don't even know what to say. Like, I just hated the framing of that, like the idea of did you forget about me? Like you literally don't reach out to me either. No, they always want to sit there and play victim in these revisionist. I shouldn't even call it revisionist history because it's a current thing that they're pretending is not what it is. Like they make it sound as if they're calling me multiple times or several times or whatever, and I just don't answer. It's like no. Only thing they've sent me in the last several months was that text message, and I haven't answered that because I really don't even know what to say. Oh man, this whole thing is just such a pain. I guess some people really do get off on that idea of I did something for you, or rather, you haven't said anything to me, so you must be ignoring me, right? Like forget the fact that that person doesn't contact you like at all ever, but you're ignoring them. Definitely not also the other way around. Uh, I was gonna say after wrap this up, I probably would try to. I don't know. I had this one errand I was gonna run today, but I don't entirely feel like doing it. There's just so much stuff that like goes wrong with these job situations where they have you you know if they say they're interested in hiring you, they do these background checks and all types of other inquiries, and then you don't just like start it on your first day. You have to also go to something else or fill out some more paperwork or just it's a dragged out process. And my favorite part again is the what I discussed before, which are these relatives that They'll be the first one to spit in somebody's face because they don't have a job, but then they'll also tell you what jobs you should or shouldn't take, and like literally, nothing is ever good enough for these people. Like I can think of at least 5 or 10 different jobs where they're like, "Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that." Now, how someone can sit there and get angry that someone's unemployed, but then also tell them not to take multiple different types of jobs, it's beyond me. It's just it's more of the Twilight Zone. That's why I said I really do feel like some people are just anti everything. Like they're against stuff just so you can have someone that's opposed to a thing. Like you know, they really are just rebels without a cause. Because it's not like when they say, "Oh, don't do this. Oh no, this other thing is lining up for you. I'll make sure of that." No, it's just it's literally worthless talk. It's people trying to get you to do what they would do or not do what they don't want to do, and then after that they're just going to keep talking trash and you know making even more disparaging comments. No, things over here are such a they're a maze. There's a lot of like tricks and turns and spins you can go through with this stuff that don't really amount to things. I will say when I went to the market on it was the last Sunday. I mentioned before that like I go there probably every few days, like at least multiple times a week. And I kept noticing in recent weeks that there was a car that was like parked in the parking lot with the back window basically I guess busted out. So they were like putting pieces of they had cardboard in like where that would be. And I thought it was so just it was a thing like a thing I kept noticing because it was the same car with a pretty distinct look that was in the exact same parking spot, which is like the one that's closest to the corner or whatever. Like just it never moved. And one day when I was like parked around there, I saw a foot sticking out of the back seat. Couldn't see in the back seat because they had stuff covering the windows, but that's besides the point. And I'm not kidding. When I went up there last on Saturday, I saw the lady that was inside of there get out and start like I guess she was cleaning something or whatever. But I was um I was just thinking it's interesting how with that restaurant or with that excuse me with that grocery store they always say customer 2 hour parking. So they always like at least with their signs tell you can only be parked there for 2 hours. And that's why it baffles me that I've now seen someone who I can pretty much guarantee has been parked there forget for a few hours for like a few days and there's I guess I mean, like I said, I'm not against people doing that stuff because it doesn't bother me one or the other if they want to, if they need to have somewhere to stay or whatever. It's just, I just find it interesting that they have a sign like that up there and then they don't actually enforce it. Because I've seen that same person in that exact same spot for at least the last 2 weeks now. It's just a recurring thing I've caught glimpses of. It's really sad because I mean I don't even have to go into it. It's just it's a depressing thought that you go to this store and there's someone that's there not so that they can go and get food but so they can survive like they can just meet basic utilities. It's depressing the more I think of it. But so far I'm noticing a lot of homeless people. Like I've driven around certain streets and there's whole trailers like parked together, two or three of them parked back to back. I've also seen some other cars where I think I mentioned I went to Starbucks and there was like a whole row of cars with tinted windows, which I thought was really weird, and then I realized it's all probably homeless people. Because every time I would come up there, I'd always notice that that back area would just be filled with cars. Like the only time I could get up there and not have to worry about cars just taking every space in that particular area is if I came really early in the morning, like 6 or 7. And even then, sometimes they were still there. That's what I find so interesting, just how they dominate a lot of these places that they park in. Like they stay there for long periods of time, and the people running the place really don't seem to care. Because they don't. You'll see them for prolonged periods. It's not like, yeah, I pull up here, stay here for like 3 hours, and I'm going. No, they'll be there all day long, all night long, with the dark windows. Mm. Like I said, this job thing is one of the most terrifying things to me because it's literally someone just constantly over and over having to keep applying for stuff and not hearing anything back. Uh, or if they do, it's like a mirage, like a brief interval where they make it appear as if they're interested, but not really. No, I try to just stay away from a lot of this stuff because it just gets kind of just sad. Like everywhere I go, I can see some remnant of homelessness. Like I can see someone where like they have a whole bunch of stuff in the car or um just like something there that makes it obvious like, yeah, this person is not well off or in any kind of great condition, and it's sad. It really is. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. You just can't get away from it. Like a lot of the affluent neighborhoods over here do a decent job of like just clearing people out so they can look nice, but the actual underlying problems are all around there. So I said the whole thing is just so insane to me. And, sad part is everyone has a story. They all have some different tale of terror. You work for this place, they laid you off, they were doing these cutbacks, and you got struck with it. Um, or maybe you thought you were getting hired by somewhere, but they were like, "Haha, no thanks." You just never know. I'd say it feels nice to be in here alone for the first time, and for basically the first time in like the last 7 days. So it'll never not astonish me how people can just jump out of doing really anything. Like just they can always avoid going to school, they can avoid going to work. It's incredible. good at dodging. Anytime they have to do something, they don't want to do it. They're good at that. They're just, that's one of their best skills. By the way, I was on YouTube yesterday and I was looking for this documentary. It's one of those. I think it was E True Hollywood Story. And what drives me crazy about YouTube and copyright when it comes to just stuff people upload that's been on TV before is that a lot of times people use their camcorders or some other type of device to record this stuff and post it on here, and the companies that own these documentaries do not make them available for you to watch anywhere, which means that they're basically trying to ensure, like, they're copyright striking things that, were they not uploaded by people who just happen to like the stuff and had copies of it, we would just never see again. That's the craziest thing to me. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna post this or put it on DVD or make it to where you have any chance of actually watching this, legally, or at least through a means that supports us. So we'll just strike down every time somebody tries to upload it. That's why I said companies are weird. Like, I remember A&E used to do that when people put up the Bill Curtis documentaries. I think it was Cold Case Files. They would strike those down. Oh, the copyright notice, copyright violation. I just don't get the logic of that. Why make something if you're gonna just stop airing it altogether? And then when people try to upload online, you blast it down. So where are they supposed to watch it? That's why I said just weird. At least with movie studios, they're pretty bad too about like copyright and you know, but at least with them, they can say, okay, this is a film that we have on DVD. People can go buy it there. You have documentaries that haven't been on TV in like 20 years that somebody uploaded online, and they'll be like, "This is this is copyright violation." So I say you just can't win. They're always looking for some way to get mad over something, or to try and like go after somebody. That was the damnedest thing too. It's like, so anytime you upload a movie, like pieces of it could be a documentary, it could be just something, it could be a commercial from TV. If you upload any of this stuff, even if it hasn't been seen in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you can expect the company, if they're still kicking, to try and like say you're stealing their stuff, or you took it from me and you're trying to profit off of it or whatever. Which is always the craziest thing, is it's like, why would, like, of all the things to steal, why a commercial? Commercials aren't exactly known for their entertainment value. They literally exist to promote a product. So to be like, you are trying to take my ad where I promote this product and make profit off of it. It's like, but we're not selling the product. Only time I ever had a true copyright issue was when I uploaded Tom Hartman's interview with Rokana, and he sent me like a message, not him directly, but I guess like whoever runs his channel, and they were like, "You have this many days to voluntarily remove your video for copyright infringement." I was like, "You guys took this interview down." Like, well, I guess they made it unlisted, but but my thing was, I only uploaded it because you couldn't watch it on your channel. They act like I'm really sitting here like, ooh, I can take this Tom Hartman video and pretend I'm him and get paid for it. No, I didn't. It was that thing was not monetized at all. I wasn't making a cent off of it. Because again, it's like that's not my video. I'm aware of that. It's just I'm putting it up because they took theirs and privated it or unlisted it rather. So I said people just they drive me crazy with all this copyright stuff because it's very finicky. The logic behind a lot of it doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like when this one person said that from a hypothetical standpoint, a company could theoretically go after people who write fan fiction, like on different websites or whatever, because they're using copyrighted characters, but they don't do it for two reasons. One, because most of these writers are not profiting off of this. Secondly, it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint to tell people, oh, those stories that you're making and creating with our characters so that you can like further promote our stuff and possibly get more people into it. Yeah, we're gonna come after you for that. No, copyright law around works of fiction is so fascinating to me because there's so many little like pieces of it that don't make sense. Like if you were to try and write a story with a copyright character and publish it, like try to publish it as an official book, you most likely will like run into some trouble with some lawyers, like, oh, you stole this from us. But then if you go on YouTube and write a story about some fictional characters and just read it, right? Uh, Even if it's the exact same story and you have it monetized, you can profit off of it. And another thing that's brought up is that a lot of people make designs of copyrighted characters and they put them on shirts, they put them on jackets, um, backpacks, and like there's no lawyer going after them. I had a blanket when I was a kid that had the Justice League on there. There's this woman that made all these different blankets. She did one with Spider-Man on it. And it's like I highly doubt she had to go through Marvel and DC to get authorization to make those based off of their characters. That's why I said everything is just such a it's not well defined. It's all speculation and like there's pieces of legitimacy to their arguments, right? Like, okay, you shouldn't in the strictest terms be able to make a profit off of copyright characters, but people are already doing that in means that aren't writing. They're doing it through making products with those characters images that they're then able to sell. um Again, like they make a video, it could be an original animation for example with those characters and they can monetize it because they did draw all of that. uh like I said, just it's interesting to me, just very very fascinating how there's so many layers to this idea of is this real or not? Is this a true thing that is actually occurring? Like what all in the strictest terms does it mean to break copyright, to not act in accordance with these laws relating to the use of fictional characters? That's why I said the whole thing is just so strange to me. No, it's just sad that there's such a like a burning, seething hatred for by a lot of these companies for these like small time people that want to use their and you know the other another thing is that there's a lot of artists who draw copyright characters, and I don't see any lawyers trying to talk to them. They draw them and they get paid off of it because they put it on. It could be on Patreon. It could be on some other website, like on Twitter, for example. And no one tells the artist, "Hey, this character you just drew, that's mine. I own that." I've seen plenty of artists. They've drawn characters from all types of movies and TV shows and animes, and like I said, no one gets in trouble. But I'm not saying I want them to, because like I said, I'm not on the side of some mega corporation that wants to like, you know, get angry because a few people made some coins off of the characters that they made but don't use or barely use or misuse or whatever. Like it doesn't. It's one of those things where for me to be sympathetic toward the company, it would have to be somebody making some big, giant, massive millions of dollars profit while they're not making hardly anything of it, and that never happens. It's always the company trying to squash somebody that made like a little bit of change off of their idea or IP or whatever. No, I'm so fascinated just by how much gray area there is there. How when you go online, you can see people taking other, companies, characters, creations, whatever, and they draw original art of them that they sell to people. You go out in real life to a store, you see shirts with the characters on it. In places that you probably can infer would not be the types of areas where the company would be that owns the character be like, okay, yeah, you can use them for this. You can infer this is probably not something they've entirely legalized. But I mean, like I said, they're not being gone after. Like if you make a T-shirt and you put the Superman logo on it, and then you go outside and sell it for $5, it's like DC has no idea that happened. And what is DC going to do if they find out it happened? Try to track you down. So it's copyright is such a it's I'm not I was a person that when I was still going to school I wanted to be a lawyer, but I've just been so interested in just all the gray areas of the law, like all the little things people use and do to get out of something. And there are parts of it that I do find legitimate. Like I do think there's some legitimacy to the idea of how bad is it that someone is making a supposed profit off of another person's work if they're the ones who made the new thing with the character on it? Like I said, YouTubers do that where they make videos about a movie or a show, and it's like they own the video, right? Because it's their voice or their, face, etc. But I mean, there's still a lot of times they show screenshots, they play clips. Like you can make all types of arguments that like, hey, that's still a format where they're making a profit off of someone else's idea. Even if, like I said, I think that falls under the category of like transformative because it's not just them uploading the movie, it's them talking about it, but still. And like I said, so many ways to to talk about the profit that people get off of shirts and jackets and bags with characters they don't own on them. and how because a lot of these people are like indie, like they're not really known brands, or they have like an online store or something. They basically can just completely get away with it with no repercussions. No, I think the biggest mistake a company can do is like try to go aggressively go after people on the basis of the law that use their character's likeness, because I do think it can end up backfiring where it's like, okay, this person just wanted to make a shirt with this character on it, and what's the big deal? Think how crazy that is. If I go out and make my own custom shirt with Piccolo on it, and I just wear it around my house, maybe wear it outside, no one has a problem with that. But then if someone buys that for me for $10, now I'm depriving Akira Toriyama of funds. Like what? And that's why I said there's a depravity to this copyright stuff, because they're really sitting here trying to make someone feel bad for basically just liking a character and wanting to make something in reference to that. Mm. Or this one guy was talking about how he was so fascinated with movie novelizations where there's a book that'll come out that's based on some movie that comes out around the same time, and it'll often have more details that make the story better, or at least add more context to the events there. And I'm like, I can appreciate that in an abstract sense, but isn't it sad when you have to read a book to understand the events of a movie? Like, shouldn't the movie be able to convey those ideas within its runtime? But I do really like movie novelizations. I think they're a fun alternate way to enjoy a story with, like, sometimes there's a new twist on it, sometimes there's stuff you hadn't heard about in the film. It can be enjoyable. Mm. Now, copyright is one of the scariest things about being a content creator, because we got to a point about a year or two ago where there was some guy that was striking down anime channels for putting up, like, I guess, pictures from shows, and I was I'll never forget, there was a guy I was talking to at the time, and there are multiple anime channels that he just despises. He thinks they're horrible. They, clickbait, misinformation, just he had no high opinion of them whatsoever. So he actually celebrated this, and I told him, you know that if they keep this up, I could get in trouble too, because I've used screenshots as well. So, it's like that's like, I get where you don't like a channel and maybe you're not exactly going to be rushing to go to be in their defense, but there's broader implications for the idea that someone can pretend there's this big copyright violation simply by using images from a work, which I think are not the same thing as well, first of all, as uploading clips, but secondly, it's again, it's transformative. It's not the same. Like I said, you guys can have that stuff. All these weird people get angry over whatever. I don't have patience for it. Especially a copyright holder, they're ready to pounce on you just for existing at certain points. Like it seems just, oh, why are you messaging me? Why'd you put this out? Like they're always ready to have a problem with someone, and it could be over the stupidest thing. Like you made a video with our character in it. Actually, no, you made what do you call it? You wrote a story that has our character in it for like 2 pages. This is very offensive to us. And you're like, okay, but what about the people selling T-shirts with your characters on them, or backpacks or hats? Are you gonna go after them too? No, just me. Okay. So I said the whole thing is just such a carnival, and there actually is a lot to be said about the idea that they're selective with their targets, because they know at the end of the at the I don't even like saying this, but at the end of the day that there's too many fans oftentimes of this stuff to really monitor everyone. Like maybe in their heart they would like to, say, hey, don't do this, don't do that. But as far as, oh damn, this person just made a shirt with our character on it in this one city, and in this other city, somebody made a jacket with our character on it. In this other city, somebody made shoes with our, it's just it's not. Hell, I've even seen some socks with characters on them. But I'm just saying that they don't have the time or the resources to go after all these like indie creators and just people that are making this stuff for either for fun or for profit, or maybe a mix of both. It's there's not enough time for them to just go after everybody, is what I've noticed. Somebody is over there piloting their plane and just being all types of noisy. We're very loud. Oh man, it's been a hard year, I can tell you that. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Just a time where there's just been so much frustration, and I don't know what's gonna happen. They seem real hell bent on only showing this one picture of this thing. That's something I've always found kind of weird about some of these product placements online, where they'll have some outfit or some kind of like thing they're trying to sell relating to clothes, and then you only ever see it from one angle or one side or whatever. Like it's weird where it's like, why can't you show me the back of that? Why can't you show me the side of it? That's always a red flag. Yeah, I was I was astonished by just how much, legal jargon you can get into when you're trying to if you try to sell something with it. And like I said, I've watched artists for years get paid hundreds, maybe even sometimes thousands of dollars from drawing pictures of copyrighted characters, and no one seems to have a problem with it. Like, not an issue, but if someone decides, okay, well, I'm going to put out a story with these characters from this show or this movie, end of the world. How does that work? Like, how what's the justification for getting so enraged because somebody wrote the names of characters in the story, or used them for their own story, and got paid for it, but then not getting enraged when people take your characters, draw them, and then make sometimes tens of thousands of dollars from all these different commissions and their ridiculous prices. But that's a story for another day. Those prices. I mean, it's that same thing of like they pick which ones to go after and which ones to leave alone. Like out of all the artists I've seen, I've never witnessed a single one. And you could make the argument of like, okay, they're making this original picture. It's not like they're selling art of the character done by other artists. But then it's like that you could say that about a lot of these stories, because a lot of these writers are writing something that's wholly original, that isn't taking something from somewhere else, and they're still getting gone after legally, or at least you know dissuaded from doing that because of fear of being gone after. And like I said, I'm kind of, I don't know, it's hard for me to, because again, if we're going off a legal basis, I do think there's a gray area, but it's hard for me to be sympathetic towards these companies because they're making all these millions and millions of dollars, and they'll flip their wig over someone doing a story that at a minimum they get paid a few hundred for, if they're even that lucky, if they publish it. It's just one of those things where it's like, because they're not sympathetic in a lot of cases to people that use their stuff. I don't think we should be sympathetic towards them. I'm not encouraging people to steal any type of copyrighted stuff, but especially not because I don't want anyone to end up facing legal consequences. But I, if you do end up doing it, you're not going to see me, sticking my nose down and going, "How dare you take," because it doesn't matter to me. God, there's so much, so much stuff that just doesn't add up to what it should be. In an era where people can make videos where all they do is take a bunch of screenshots and talk over them, usually with screenshots from something that's copyrighted, they can profit off that. People can draw copyrighted characters, they can profit off that. But if you write a story with copyrighted characters, it's the end of the world. If you write that story and try to get it published, or like, released in some official capacity. And I find that absolutely ridiculous. But like I said, companies are really just, you always have to remember the number one important thing about these mega corporations, that either they own the rights to the TV show, movie, whatever, um, is that they are very, 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 very greedy. And the thing about being greedy is it doesn't really allow you to ever look at things from the perspective of the other side, like the group of people who otherwise like your stuff, but maybe they're trying to do something because they don't feel like you've done it or necessarily been as open to doing it. And they just can't do that. They can't acknowledge it because it's so far removed from what they are. Like for them, everything is money, 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 money. But for a lot of fans, they're actually trying to do something original, do something creative, and it's just they can't understand that because to them everything is about profit. It's about that bottom line. So if they think for even a moment that that little book you wrote is going to deny them profits or you're going to make some decent amount from what you've written with their stuff, they're going to come after you. And I don't really like it because they're basically using the law to kind of like play victim. They took my characters, but in reality, it's just literally about money. That's it. So yeah, that's another part of the frustrating act of trying to make stuff just when copyright holders get so nasty. I hope you enjoyed the stream and have a good rest of your day.